Yes, it helps if I have myself switched on. Very good afternoon, everyone. I'm very sorry about that technical hitch there. Welcome along to the Late Bite Lunch. My name is Rory Devlin, and I'm delighted to say we have a wonderful panel joining us today. Joining us, we have Gary Grimes, Aoife Gaffney, and Nicola Jane Little. So, welcome along to the show, everyone. What I'd like to do first of all is I want to give each of you a few minutes just to tell us a little bit about your business, what you do, and that type of thing, and then we'll get into proper group discussion at that stage. So, Gary, we'll start off with yourself.
Excellent, Rory. Thanks for having me on. Much appreciate the time, and hi to everyone who's watching. So my name is Gary Grimes. My business is Simply Business Finance. The short of what we do is we work with Irish businesses to help them get business loans of all sorts of in all ways, and also any type of asset finance or indeed other finance requirements that business might have. We do that by working with businesses to understand the application process. So in Ireland, unfortunately, the business finance in this country has been radically overcomplicated for too long now. So what we try and do is keep a super simple model of helping business owners find a lender in the market with a product that suits the specific finance need that they have, as opposed to going through talking to one lender who'll always going to tell you their product is the best product for wherever you're doing. So we have businesses do that by building them a financial profile, first of all, which is much like a LinkedIn profile, just understanding everything that's happening inside the business, all the good stuff, all the bad stuff. And then working on elements inside their profile that we think might have an impact when applying for finance, fixing those things before we make an application, and just trying to make the process super simple for businesses to bring finance into their business if and when they need it.
That's great, Gary. Thanks very much for that.
No problem.
And next we'll hear from Aoife Gaffney from Prudence Moneypenny.
Rory, thanks very much for having me on the show. So my name is Aoife Gaffney. I am a certified money coach, and my business is Prudence Moneypenny Coaching. So myself and my team work predominantly with women, and we empower women to reach financial freedom. And that's different for everybody. And so we look at mindset. We look at the reasons why somebody is not where they want to be in their life at the moment. What are the stories, beliefs, patterns, and behaviors that they currently have that are not serving them? And so we spend a lot of time on mindset and uncovering and unraveling these complexities that people have raveled. And it's only then when somebody is in a very positive and powerful mindset that we can introduce very practical solutions that are very practical and very simple and easy. Very simple money management strategies that will teach you how to make money, how to mind your money, and most importantly, then how to multiply it.
Great. So, an all-round service that gives you a much better relationship with money. Also joining us, we have...
It's important to understand the relationship with money.
Yeah, absolutely. Also joining us, we have Nicola Jane Little from the Mint Business Club in the UK, who's very kindly joined us today.
Well, thank you for having me. My accent's a little bit different. I'm based in County Durham in the northeast of England, and I'm so delighted to be here. It's awesome. Thank you so much. So I run Mint Business Club, and we serve our clients who are all self-employed or run very, very small businesses over here in predominantly the northeast of England. But you never know, come to Ireland, I'd love to. And we work to 6 pillars, our 6 pillars of Mint. And I'm really fascinated about the other guests because one of our pillars is money. And so we look at your mindset, and if you're okay, because if you're not okay, you can't run your business. We look at business foundations, all the things that we might have skipped over when we started our business. Money, and we separate that off as a pillar of its own right, because obviously we need money, but people are desperately scared to talk about money or think about money. So I can't wait to hear what your other guests have got to say about that. And after money, we go through our marketing pillar, we've got our sales pillar, and we've got our business growth pillar as well. So we work to these 6 pillars in Mint. And I've been self-employed for 13 years, and I've started 3 businesses. And the support that we give is all the stuff that I didn't get when I started, and all of those lovely, wonderful learning moments, really called mistakes. So all the mistakes that I made, and we serve hundreds of people. It's interesting to sort of notice that if you're self-employed, the big things that really affect us, our lack of confidence, maybe working on our own, we don't have a team around us, nobody celebrate with or to ask questions to, and that's why Mint exists. Really, all the things that I missed when we started my business, it just wasn't there. But really interesting, can't wait for the discussions about money, because it's such a huge issue. Your money, your mindset, how you bring finance in, how you grow your business, that kind of covers 3 of our pillars. So really can't wait, looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Great. Thanks a lot, and we're delighted you could make it to join us today. I mean, again, one of the things, and I think because of the 3 guests we have, one thing that's important that we discussed today is when it comes down to getting finance for your business as a very small business. Following on from COVID, Gary, is it a case that I'm hearing from a lot of people that they really and truly are struggling to manage to actually get any finance in because the banks are too scared because we don't know what's going to happen next?
It's an accurate reflection of the market for sure. Absolutely. I think what we're seeing is a period of it's new ground really for lenders and for banks, and it really is. And credit models are changing rapidly. And like when I started the business in January 2020 last year, I'd waited for a period of time to leave my old employer because the market had developed enough for me to make a decision to leave. And within 6 months, the market there was a massive, it went backwards probably a couple of years when it came to making applications for finance, what you needed, who you needed to speak to. Lenders were closing the doors and saying, we're not taking in any new business until we understand what's going on. Hospitality in particular hospitality in Ireland has been definitely hardest hit. Some of the rules that have been passed on, and business owners trying to keep the businesses afloat, it's just been very difficult for them to operate in. But ultimately, this all comes down to building an application that the lenders now fits their credit model. That's an interesting one. So, is it harder to access capital for your business today? 100%, absolutely.
Right, and Eve, what would you think in relation then to if you were meeting with a small business owner, someone similar to Gary who had only started just bore the pandemic, and they're really struggling to come to terms with this whole lack of money available to them, what sort of advice would you be offering them?
Lots of businesses can be started with very small amounts. Say there's always a solution. Sometimes you just can't see it. It doesn't mean it's not there. You just currently can't see it. And the money is there as well. It's just simply you need maybe that help to access it. So if somebody is struggling for whatever reason, I'd say hire a coach. You don't have to. I'm using the term coach kind of loosely. So you don't necessarily have to pay that person, but it's have a meeting with somebody. If you don't like them or you don't like what they're telling you, have a meeting with somebody else. So explore all your solutions, and especially with small businesses, your local enterprise office is an absolutely fantastic starting point. And they offer unbelievable support. So the supports are there, but you may need the help and support of somebody else, such as Gary or a local enterprise office, to help you access those. And I say never give up. If you truly believe in your heart and soul that this is something that you are passionate about, then keep going.
Yeah. And what's the position in the moment in the UK, Nicola? I know that we've more or less been told that everything has gone back to normal, but in reality, how normal is normal in the UK at the moment?
I don't even know where to begin with that. I feel at the moment, in terms of how my community are, it's a really weird time. I was having this conversation this morning because we're kind of like are talking about normal, but nobody feels quite normal yet. And are we wearing masks? Are we not wearing masks? Is the money there? Do we start now? Are the kids going to go back to school? So we're in really uncharted territories. I think last year when everybody shut down, we were all in that point where we're just like, right, we're all shut down. We know what to do. But right now, people are struggling as much as I think they were last year. With regards to money and accessing money, obviously, things have changed since we've left the EU, shall we say. So I've worked for many years on funded projects that have been ERDF funded, and that will change. But there are pots of money over here in England. Certainly, I can't talk about the other nations, but in England, there are many schemes. And as Aoife said, it's about reaching out to find the people who know about that if you don't. Because the stuff there, that community and that network, we need those answers probably from other people, because we're not specialists in money unless you're a specialist in money. If that makes sense, it's that community that asks the questions.
I say we just have a comment that's come in there from Maggie Geraghty about how challenging working alone is. And I think for some as well, if you're in a business whereby you're working alone and you're working online, so you have no real interaction with other people, I think that makes it twice as challenging and twice as much of a struggle.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
In terms of how do you build in general a better relationship, people what I have encountered is people who've never had as such any sort of real disposable income. Would it be fair to say that they're actually afraid when a little bit of disposable income does come their way? Anyone want to take that?
Afraid about what
I think
they
everybody has a.
Go on, sorry, go ahead.
Everybody has a comfort zone. Sorry, Gary. Yeah, I mean, we all have where we feel comfortable. So you're comfortable, you earn a particular amount, and you're comfortable because it's like better the devil you know than the devil you don't know. And then maybe sometimes you get more money, or maybe you have less, and you're suddenly out of your comfort zone, and that is quite a stressful place to be. And sometimes, and again, I'm being quite general in my statements, sometimes people who experience a windfall, it could be an inheritance, it could be an actual win, struggle a little bit because it's more money than they've ever had. It's not about the amounts, but it's more money than possibly they've had before. And they don't actually really know what to do with it. And our brains will do everything in its power to keep us safe. And so without good help, advice, and support and structure, sometimes these sudden windfalls can cause people huge difficulties. And they never had a plan. So I have a couple of different plans. I have my spending plan for my life as it is at the moment. And I have the spending plan for my life for when I reach the next level of my income. And then I have my dream, ridiculous, no holds barred plan. And so that if I do have a windfall, I immediately just move to the next plan. So it doesn't matter how much money comes into my life. I have a plan so that I don't feel uncomfortable if an unexpected source, and I welcome money from all unexpected sources, comes in, then I know exactly what I'm going to do with it, and I know exactly where it's supposed to go.
Yeah, I just see we've a comment there from Monique Walsh. Interesting to hear from Nicola and compare the scene here and the UK. But I think the reality is, even leaving Brexit out of the equation, they're very, very different scenes.
Yeah.
Right? And then when you add Brexit into it, it becomes chalk and cheese almost, because you're talking totally different types of management styles. You have the UK, which in general, you have every single part of the UK more or less on their own trajectory and their own plan of doing things. So it is certainly a minefield, and it's much easier here in Ireland, whereby everything is on one plan, whether you agree or disagree with it, it's all working to the same plan.
I think over here we're waiting to find out what's going to replace what. So it's very much a case of those of us who've worked with funded training, or I was a trainer for 10 years, digital trainer, worked on lots of funded training programs. What's the next replacement of what that was? So there's a lot of tenterhooks at the minute, just waiting around to see what's coming next. And of course, there's a lot of projects still running, and there's funding available that was allocated 5 years ago that needs to get spent before the next thing comes. So there's many of us who work in certainly my industry are kind of like, right, what's next? What's happened? How quick have we got to get that access over here? There are lots of very small business pots of money. For example, £3,000, you get 40% back. I don't know if you have it in Ireland, but this is all ERDF money. So as a small business, you can access small pots, and we aren't, we're contributing to that pot, but it's about the run out. How long have we got left? What comes next? And that just gives us uncertainty. There's always that thought of, what is going to replace what? So it's interesting times, certainly interesting.
Yeah, no, I think most definitely. And as I said, that's why I wanted to bring yourself in as well, Nicholas, so that we get a comparison, because I know there's a lot of people in Ireland at the moment are feeling we're really hard done by. But given the circumstances, I mean, I talk to people in the UK on a regular basis through my involvement with the UK Micro Business Awards. And the horror stories I hear about the 3 million who were totally excluded from any sort of support during COVID. And I think it's important we get that balance right between Ireland and the UK, so we understand that while we may not agree with everything the government have done, we have actually made a huge amount of progress along the way. In terms of, is there a case out there, though, for some businesses that they're afraid to grow, and on that basis they say, I'm very happy at the level I'm at, I don't really want to go up to the next level? Or is there genuinely people there who feel they grow their business so far and they don't actually want to expand it any further?
I deal a lot with businesses in that with that kind of query, Rory. And sometimes it can learn, we talk about in our business about using finance as a tool to grow your business. Stop thinking about it as money, as finance, because I think Irish people a lot of the time have a fear of finance. The UK, I lived in the UK for 7 years. I lived in Scotland and worked for HSBC. It's so different, so far ahead. And I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, not being critical of Ireland, but exposing opportunities for someone to potentially move into. But I find in Ireland that there's a little bit lack of education, even at business level for SME level, about how to use finance as a tool for your business. But right now I'm sitting here having a conversation to you on my laptop, and this is a tool that I paid for that. And there's a TV here which we do presentations on. It's a tool which we paid for. If money can be used in the same way for businesses, we would see a lot more businesses in Ireland being more confident about growing. Like, businesses are terrified. I speak to people all the day, and they're terrified to borrow because they don't know how they're going to pay it back.
Yeah.
But if they understood how they're using the business, the finance as a tool to grow the business, well, then they get more confident about how they're going to really pay it back. And I see it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Well, let's move off talking about money for a few minutes now. When it comes to vaccinations, we're now hearing talk that they're going to introduce boosters for certain categories of people, initially with the long-term view being boosters for everyone. What are people's thoughts about where they're talking about tying it in with the flu vaccine? Because is that going to put people off? Because a lot of people get symptoms from the flu vaccine who didn't actually get symptoms when they got the COVID vaccine, or there's fears, are they going to get a double whammy of side effects or this type of thing? So, I mean, what do you think? Is it going to help the situation, or is it going to cause more issues, do you feel?
It's a tough one, Rory. It's a tough one. It's one of these things that everyone has an opinion on. Look, I'll jump in first and say this. I've not had my vaccination. And I've been very open and honest with my family about that. I've my own personal reasons for that. So again, this has come to the Ireland with the vaccination programs in Ireland, and how we would have believed that this vaccination program in Ireland would have helped hospitality businesses recover, where it probably hasn't. That's the reality of it. And any stories that you might hear about, it's created this, that, and this levels of revenue and new businesses for hospitality. I've not seen that for the most part. So it's I think we just it's opinion based question. Everyone's going to have a different one on it. What the future's like, we just have to wait and see, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I mean, on that note, Gary, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's everyone's personal choice whether they choose to have the vaccine or they don't.
Yeah, look, the COVID situation is one of these things. I had a baby. My baby was born on March the 15th, 2020, which was the same day the pubs in Ireland were closed for the first time. I have my own personal experiences with COVID that will be with me for the rest of my life. That's a fact. Whether it's what happened in the Coombe Hospital when we were there on the night he was born, to engaging with my own family due to COVID, christenings, all of that stuff. We've had not all good experiences. We've tried to keep life as normal as we can in a time when things are not normal. And yeah, it's a tough one. Everyone, and the one thing that I always said to my family was, listen, I have an opinion, you have an opinion, and the whole world has an opinion, and everybody has a separate opinion, and you have to value other people's opinions and accept them as their own, and
Absolutely.
get on how they are. And I just think if we all did that, instead of get to a place of confrontation, which I think a lot of what happens in the media causes confrontation, as opposed to bringing people to a place of understanding. Like, let me understand why you feel like that. And it just different approach to things could be different. But fortunately, I'm not making the decision at the top of the tree. So there we go.
Yeah, no, but again, I absolutely wholeheartedly agree. It has to be about a coming together, and those that choose, whether you choose to have or not to have. As I said, I had mine at the first opportunity purely because of underlying conditions that I have.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And I have no problem with anyone that has decided they don't want to, because again, that is their choice, and that's what the world is based on. Is you're supposed to have freedom of choice.
It's the same as you, Rory. I get a physical done almost every year. We're a full blood panel done almost every year. Myself and my girlfriend, we do that just to be proactive. If there's something wrong, we need to fix it. We try and get out ahead of these things, and that, again, as you said, personal opinion. That's how I feel. So yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Aoife, Nicola, anything to offer on this? What your thoughts are in relation to vaccines and boosters, or?
No, I think I'd have to agree with Gary. I'm not anti anything and I'm not pro anything. I'm pro. That's saying pro-choice maybe simply has maybe the wrong connotations. That's not what I meant to say. But I think I do believe in have your own opinion, absolutely, and I do believe in freedom of choice. And everybody has an opinion about something, and I will hear your side of things. I don't necessarily have to agree with it, but I will hear it if you will hear mine.
Yeah.
And everybody has strong views, and everybody has their own story with COVID. And not for a minute, I'm not being dismissive. I'm not saying that it's not serious, but I do believe in freedom of choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because obviously I'm sitting in the northeast of England, and the UK is highly vaccinated now. We're whatever figure we are. In my family, we've had people die of COVID, and I've got very good friends who are very, very poorly. So I am very pro getting vaccinated, but I sit in a different media. I sit in a different world. I sit with my own opinions. I've seen, as you say, a lot of our members having to shut down, having lost their businesses. And so I'm coming from a different place to you all, the same place, as in, like, I absolutely believe it's personal choice. I always just hope that personal choice is based on correct information, because the work we've done over the past 18 months with our businesses and trying to get them reopened and all the rest of it, there is so much information that is incorrect. And it's just a fact. You can jump on Facebook and see any kind of rubbish. And, as long as our personal choices are based on the correct stuff, I'm happy for that. If it's based on what your neighbor said around the corner and Theirs is based on what their neighbour said around the corner. I'm not good with that. There are professionals and medical professionals who spend their lives in that industry, and I don't know what they know. I'm very grateful for the vaccines I've had. I'm grateful for, the vast majority of our members are all vaccinated, and that is making them come out. It's making them want to open up again. It's making them come to, we're going to talk about networking. They want to come now, but they're frightened still, even double vaccinated. We've got a lot of our members are absolutely scared to go out still. So it's a real thing. And, having had 2 family members die in this last year, I have a different perspective, and I'm not suggesting that you do or don't because of those reasons. It's just my perspective smacked me in the face. Boom. It's a real thing. It's not just pretendy. It's real. But you're absolutely right. Of course, everybody will have such an opinion on this, how it affects your family, your business. Do you go and do the shopping, or are you still having it dropped off? My parents are still washing everything that comes in the house. It's been a serious year, hasn't it? And damn sure I'm sick to death of it. I wish we weren't talking about it anymore. That's the one thing I think we all agree on. How do we get past it?
Even for myself, like I mentioned, I launched this business in January 2020.
That's time, eh?
I waited a long time to make a decision to do it, and then within 12 weeks, the world had changed. And it's ironic, it's great that we can have a conversation and share your opinions on these things. And then I look at my business, and I have probably, one thing I've always, Rory, you were saying about how to develop relationships with people and deeper relationships. And honesty for me is just one that I enjoy doing. And, people were asking me at stages last year, how are you getting on in the business? And I could have easily said, I'm doing great. I wasn't, we're probably doing about 15 to 20% of what I expected to do. But nearly when I said that to people, they were like, oh, Jesus, like, it's just like pattern interruption. That wasn't the answer I was expecting, But what it's actually, what COVID has also done, this is like, the silver lining of it, if there even is one. I hate it, but it's accelerated my business to a point where, we've gone through all of these iterations with my particular circumstances with the lenders that we work with. They've gone through so many different iterations of the credit model because of COVID and the change of these things. And my business is still nowhere near where I want it to be. And that is because of COVID. But at the same time, it's actually helped me develop processes. The rebranding exercise is probably 3 years ahead of when I expected to do it. I've had to bring in staff members to manage different elements of the business, and got a chance to surround myself with the right people, which I probably wouldn't have got if the circumstances of the marketplace were just normal. So it's an interesting one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, again, in some ways, I think the media aren't helping, because I heard a discussion about one of the claimed to be myths on one of the radio programs, and they were asked. It was a medical specialist, and they were asked, is there any evidence that this myth could be true? And the doctor said, no, there isn't. But at the same time, I have absolutely zero evidence to present to say it's not. So, I mean, something like that certainly isn't going to help the situation.
Not at all.
Right, but...
No, ambiguity, like that, them grey areas is that, as Nicola said, with the UK and Brexit, you're waiting to see what's happening, and it's you're just waiting to see how it develops. I just think, black and white is great. There's grey areas, but then again, we're all in a world where it's new ground to most of us, and we're looking for leadership from areas to give us the answers, and they might not have it either. And then they become the people who we're angered at. That's just the way some societies, society in general, can work. So. Yeah, but again, getting to places of understanding when talking to people about situations like this, difference of opinions, because we're coming from different backgrounds and different experiences. It's great, it's refreshing more than anything else.
Absolutely. Right, we're just going to take a very quick break, and we'll be straight back with everyone. And the reason for mentioning the Micro Business Awards there is over the coming weeks, we will be having quite a number of the finalists appear on the show, telling us a little bit about their businesses and what being in the Micro Business Awards means to them before the Irish finals in October and the UK finals in November, and then the Irish and UK joint finals next March. But we will come back to that again in the future. So tell me, how do we switch off from work? Or do we actually switch off from work? Or are you as bad as me that 3 o'clock in the morning you pick up the phone to check the emails?
It's a good question, Rory. I'll tell you I'll jump in my experience of how I don't switch off, but time management for me. So I had a big problem. When I launched the business, trying to do everything within a day. I was working till 9:30 at night, some nights in the office, and coming home with meetings after work and stuff like that. And it wasn't good. But I watched a clip of the boy we all know, Tony Robbins, where he talks to a person in the audience, asks a question, gives him a scenario about him, relationships in his life with his significant one are come apart because he couldn't understand why spending so much time in his business was a bad thing. And it was something Tony Robbins said helped me develop in my business now. I have an understanding of quality and quantity time. So where I spend my quantity time and where I spend my quality time actually helps my work-life balance tenfold. And the quantity time is all spent in the job. I start in the morning as early as possible, and I finish at 5:30, if not 6 o'clock. And that 10 hours are my quantity time. And then when I go home, it's quality time, and the phones go down, and I try not to think about it until I go to bed, and that's when the mind races. So, yeah, if you can master that, you're doing well.
What about yourself, Aoife? What do you do to switch off or to step away from the business?
I don't, and I don't mean that in a negative way, not at all. I mean it is because this is me. This is my passion. This is something that drives me, and it's something that absolutely feeds my soul. There's a fantastic book called Life Leverage. Just the author, his name escapes me just at the moment. He's a property expert. It'll come back to me. And his wife used to drag him on holidays, and he would just be so stressed and be in such a bad mood because she'd take him away from everything for 2 weeks, and then he'd be like a crazy person. And so that didn't work. And then she'd be annoyed because he was annoyed, and then the holidays were a disaster. So what he does instead now is what I do is, yes, I will bring my laptop away with me, absolutely. And do you know what? I will bring it, and I will take time to maybe take an hour or so. Look, I need to do this because it's not I need to, I choose to. I'm going to choose to do this piece of work or whatever, and other people can go off and do their own thing. And so I build holidays into the business, and I build the business into the holiday. And then so that works really well for me, because then I don't get so stressed, because work actually feeds my soul. It doesn't drain me. Then there'll be some of the expenses then, and I'm speaking to you as my accountant, some of the expenses then that I can incur that I can write off against the business. And, pre-COVID, okay, well, I'm going to be here. Then I'd say, maybe are there interesting people in this place that I can connect with, because I'm going to be passing. So by doing that, and it's the method that works for me. Some people love to switch off completely. I don't, because it gives me passion. So my mind is always going, and like every day I'm always learning, reading, studying, doing something. But I find that by building my holidays in around the business, by having the two work in harmony together, rather than that stress and anxiety of kind of feeling cut off, that's the method that works for me. But if I'm talking to my son or something and I'm a bit distracted, I'll say to him, look, can you wait 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and then I can give you my full attention, rather than him getting annoyed at me because I'm not listening. So, again, it comes down to that quality time. It is important. If you do want to talk to me, please make sure that you have my full attention.
What about yourself, Nicola? Do you get any switch off time, or do you choose to take any switch off time?
Everything is a choice. I have a poster just there saying everything is a choice, and I'm totally with Aoife, because what I don't understand, we talk about this all the time. I talk about this nearly every day with my members, and You know, if you are self-employed, you chose to become self-employed, probably in a business that you're really passionate about. How then can you expect to switch it off at tea time? I don't even get that. You know, it's self-employment, running your own business is not the same as being employed, but we don't know that until we do it. So I think there's this almost utopian situation where you're kind of going, I'm going to have more freedom. I'm going to have more time with my kids. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to have a brilliant work-life balance. But then you have to do everything yourself. So how does that ring true? And most of the people I speak to will work more hours or have less freedom until up to a point, especially when you're building your business. So switching off for me isn't an option. It won't ever be. I choose not to. Like Aoife says, I will, if I need to, work on holiday just for 10 minutes, 15 minutes to keep me settled. It isn't. So it's the choices that we have to manage and balance the whole of our life, and our business is part of our life. It isn't a separate thing. If we choose to start our own business, it's part of our life. So do I switch off? Never. Ever. Do I love what I do? Absolutely, with all my heart and soul. So I would take that option rather than be employed by someone else and hate every second of it. Because then you don't switch off from employment either, do you? If you think about it, I used to be a school teacher. I didn't switch off from that. I thought about the kids 24/7. I mean, they just never left my head. I was employed. Yeah. So to me, you know, it's a strange thing. It's our choice to be self-employed. We need to remember that. You know what I mean?
It's when I say the quality and the quantity time, if we go out into a social setting or into a pub or a restaurant, you're automatically thinking, I wonder if the owner is here, I wonder if we can say hello to him, I wonder if we can say, listen, I love your food, you leave me alone. And I found myself, like, everywhere I go, wherever I go, if somebody mentions business to me, I'm just automatically thinking the sales app, because as you know, trying to get the workload, trying to get the quality done and the quantity done, but also if I do nothing, nothing happens, and that's always in my mind. So nearly everywhere I go, even if it's social lunch or it's nothing got to do with the job, I need to be looking. And you know, if you would have known me from Grid Finance do a product called Merchant Cash Advance Loans, and I need to be walking into a restaurant and seeing who they use to process the Merchant Cash Advance, their merchant, the debit and credit cards, just as a form of. But I think as self-employed people, are more inclined to do that. I think if you're an employee going away on holiday, you try to switch off. But as a self-employed person, never switch off. But try managing the time, just getting the right balance.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, on the basis of getting that balance, I mean, what I have actually done now, I've got to the point, because between myself and Cheryl, I'm very much the early morning person. Cheryl is the late night worker. And what was happening between us is I was starting at 4 or 5 o'clock every morning. I was working through until maybe 5, 6 in the evening. I was saying, right, that's me done now for the day. But because Cheryl wasn't starting until 8, 9 o'clock, she was working through till 10, 11 o'clock at night. And suddenly, our entire life was work. So we made the decision that now we don't have a computer at home. We have our phones, we have our emails on our phones if someone needs to contact us urgently. But for anything to do with anything people need off the system or that type of thing, we'll have to wait until the next work day. Because we had to draw a line somewhere. I mean, for example, a very simple example. At 11:15 on Monday night, I had a client trying to ring me to see could they schedule an appointment for the middle of next week. And it's kind of, you have to just get to the point of saying enough is enough.
Do you not think that's about managing expectations, both yourself, your family, and all of your clients and everybody that you serve?
Absolutely.
Once you know yourself and your best working patterns and you've understood how that family dynamic is, then the more we know ourselves and when we work the most effectively and setting those expectations. But it's quite hard to learn that, isn't it? Because especially when we first start, I've had that 11 o'clock call, I've had 1 o'clock in the morning, and you're kind of like, oh gosh, I've got to answer it, I've got to serve them right now. And you're like, it's 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
But you know, their time importance of that moment for them is not the same for us. Where I'm in bed, I would not answer the phone now at 11 o'clock at night. But you have to learn those boundaries, don't you? And have to learn how to protect yourself and your own business as well.
Well, as I said, on this occasion, I didn't answer it. But the only reason I know what they were looking for is they actually sent me a text message to say they wanted an appointment for the middle of next week. And they got a reply when the office opened the next morning. Right?
It's fair to say we can't let people wait longer than the immediate. I think my members and us, we talk a lot about, you know, we've got to get to them immediately. You've got to answer that email immediately. You've got to answer that phone call immediately. And it gives off the wrong signals anyway, in my opinion. But you know why? You know, we're in this world of digital and all the rest of it, but we have to value our time. Back to what you were saying, Gary, you know, when is the quality time and that quantity time? We have so much responsibility because they're our businesses. It's a massive responsibility. So we have to protect our time as well. But it's hard to learn when your clients are like banging at you. So it's hard to learn, but we have to protect ourselves in our businesses to protect our business.
I remember the pre-mobile phone times when you would be heading off down the country to meet a client. And that was a wonderful, wonderful time because nobody could contact you. And that was a chance to get your head together, ready. Now, unfortunately, it also meant that you could arrive 2 hours from home to find a meeting isn't going to go ahead for whatever reason. But there was still that little bit of headspace. But now that headspace just doesn't exist. Something I like to ask all my guests when they come on the show is about their favourite something quick for lunch. So as I call it, their light bite lunch. So Aoife, we'll start with yourself. What would be your go-to light bite lunch?
Well, I probably have two. So I really like green juices. So I love really sharp, like really, really sharp flavors. So I like carrot, apple, courgette, lime, ginger, all of those. So sometimes I'll have juice. But my guilty pleasure is walnuts dipped in Marmite. In fact, I sometimes I'll even just open the lid of the jar of Marmite and smell it. That's what I love to do. So it's nutritious and it feeds something in me that some people love it, some people absolutely detest it. But I think it's possibly I may have a low vitamin B or something because I do find myself craving Marmite at times. They'd be my two kind of go-to super quick guilty pleasures.
And what about yourself, Nicola? What would you go to?
I'm just thinking about Marmite, how I would run away from Marmite. It's such a funny thing, isn't it? You really either love Marmite or don't.
Yeah.
So I have a really peculiar relationship with food. I shan't go into it. But my favourite lunchtime snack, if I remember to eat, shall I share this? Banana and cottage cheese sandwich. So banana and cottage cheese sandwich, brown bread, a little bit of butter. And most people think I'm terribly weird anyway, but when I tell them what I eat. But, you know, I justify this with, you know, you can have a lot of cheeses with a lot of fruit. So a lot of cheese you'd have with grapes or you'd have with fruit. So banana, squashed, mashed, let the sugar out, cottage cheese, brown bread.
Interesting. And what about yourself, Gary? How can you top that?
I think I have two. One dirty food, as we call it, one clean food, as we would say. But I think if I was going down the route if I knew something was bad for me and I was going to eat it, it would be a Mexican chicken wrap and a can of Coke. That's just how it done because it's across the road. If I was eating clean, it's the broccoli salad and chicken, which my girlfriend Janice makes. I didn't think it was going to be as nice as it was when I first tasted it, because it's broccoli. But it's incredible. So that's my two. I won't tell you which one I prefer, just because she might be watching.
What's yours then? What do you eat?
What's yours?
Yeah.
Well, what we tend to do is we actually have our main meal in the middle of the day, right? So, I mean, for example, now when we finish the broadcast today, because home is only 10 minutes from the studio, I'll actually run home, and today we're actually having a lasagna, and then this evening, I mean, something I threw together the other evening for us was some stir fry veg, little bit of sweet chili sauce, and something new from Blue Dragon, charcoal noodles. So you have the lovely black noodles against all the colours of the veg. It looked fabulous, tasted great. And actually, I see that you've caught someone's attention, Aoife, because we've just had a comment asking walnuts and Marmite. So
Try it. I say everything is subjective. So am I. You either love me or you hate me. And I would rather evoke an opinion. I'd rather people had an opinion than thought I was bland and boring.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
That's my best friend who's asked that question, actually, Suzanne. Hi, Suzanne.
Yeah. Well, Aoife, I have to say, in all the years that I've known you, bland and boring are two words I could never associate with you. Absolutely.
And
not.
boring and accountant are two words. So people think like, oh, I said I have to meet my accountant or I have to talk to my accountant, and they make faces. And I go, no, you have to meet him. He's fantastic. He's great. He's the best accountant ever. Trust me. Yeah, meet him and you will think completely differently about your money, your accounts, and your accountant in general. So yeah, thank you for being my accountant for all the years that you have been doing
absolutely delighted to look after you. So where is the future of networking, do we feel? Because so much moved online, are we going to continue online, or is it now going to move back to face, or are people going to find a happy medium somewhere in between?
I prefer it to go back face to face personally. I love networking. It's actually something I really enjoy doing the job. I remember my first networking session I walked into in the Clayton Hotel down in Ballsbridge with the Dublin Chamber of Commerce, and feeling like everyone there knew everyone else, and I was the only person nobody knew. But then when you get to realise that lots of people go into the room and they all feel like that. But I love that buzz of going into a room and spending a couple of minutes getting to know people really quickly and getting to see them face to face, and sometimes not even talking about your business, just talking about how you got there, and then they ask you, oh, what do you actually do? I love that. And some of the people I've met in the Dublin Chamber networking meetings are still personal friends to this day, even if we haven't done business. And some people I've met at networking meetings 7 years ago, I've started doing business with them when I started my own company. So I love the face-to-face stuff. I think the video stuff is efficient because you don't have to leave your office. But I'm not a fan of it. I understand the necessity, but no, I'm personally looking forward to going back to face-to-face stuff.
And what about yourself, Eve? I know you do a lot of speaking and guest speaking and that type of thing. So for you, is it face-to-face or your preference, or do you prefer the online?
I like the blend. So I don't really like driving. Some people find that most peculiar. It's not that I can't drive. It's not an experience that I actually really enjoy. Give me public transport any day. So I quite like not being stuck in traffic. So I quite like the not having, calculating, okay, we need to get to the venue, find out what I'm supposed to be doing. So, that there's an element of time saving by not commuting. But I was at an event at the end of July in Belfast, and it was a kind of slightly peculiar pleasure to be in a room literally full of people, which was fantastic. And then people were being very respectful, and nobody was kind of too close to anybody else without consent or whatever. But it was just such a pleasure to physically meet people. And I thought, oh my goodness, they have feet, because these were people that I had only known from the online space. So I had no idea what height they were. And oh my goodness, I can see, they have a body. It's not just a floating head. So there's an element of efficiency to the online space. But I don't think you can ever really replace human interaction. And there's a lot of communication takes place when you physically see the other person that just can't happen online. And the online space has all of the challenges of, oh gosh, there's my doorbell, and oh no, my neighbors have started sewing up the house. And so there's all of those stresses and anxieties of when in the online space that are very difficult to control.
I also think that the fact of being when you're face to face with somebody, it's much easier to read body language and that type of thing, which is much harder to do online. So we just have a comment in relation to that on coming in. Louise Buckley said just there, I love meeting face to face, but used to Zoom meetings, dealing with anyone in the world or around the country. We just got to get used to dealing with living with COVID, unfortunately. And I think that's very, very true.
Yeah.
It is something that we need to learn how to move on from it. And Nicola, when are you going to bring the Mint Business Club to Ireland for one of your wonderful events?
Oh my goodness gracious me! Until COVID hit, we'd only ever done face-to-face stuff, and I love face-to-face. You're right, Aoife. There's nothing, and Gary, there's nothing at all like being in a room with other people. That humanity of it, the things that you see. I met someone for the first time on Tuesday and he said, I didn't realize how tall you were, funnily enough. And I'm like, yeah, why not? Because I've only seen you from the head to there, right? So, but we will go to a blended model, absolutely, because I can record the training and people can watch it on playback, which I never could before when we were doing live training. But the conversation when you're in a room with people is so different. I mean, it's just the nuance, everything. So I can't wait. But we've got our first big live event in September, and I would love somehow to bring it over to Ireland because I just know how much fun it would be and how you guys would get it. Do you know what I mean? And so we'll have 50 or 60 people in a room, and we are going to do networking proper, and we're going to play games, and we're just going to, I'll probably cry the whole morning. I'll be that emotional to see everybody again. But Mint Business Club now can be online, so we could have international people sign up and join us every Tuesday morning, for example, for the training. And that's what that saved my business. Zoom, thank you, for existing, has saved my business. I mean, because we were face to face, I would have had to shut. I would have had nothing left had we not been able to sort of change that over at that time. I'm very grateful for it. I wouldn't be talking to you guys now without the online technology, and I'm very grateful for this as well. But it is that balance, that kind of blended mix, and working out what's best for our customers. If they want to watch a recorded training at 2:00 in the morning, that's up to them. If I can offer that, I will do. But I tell you what, honestly, if you can help me bring Mint to Ireland, I would blooming love it. And then I can get on a plane again and come and see you all and jump about and get excited. It'd be brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with the networking, there's networking and there's doing business. So I find that closing the distance, like I could be dealing with somebody from Cork and just having a video call with them, close that distance without talking about doing business, and that's great. Yeah. I always found with the networking, there might be 30 people in the waiting room, and you might not have everyone's attention, or you might have somebody else's attention. So for doing business, for using technology and video, phenomenal. Yeah. For networking, not a massive fan. But then I always find Zoom is it can be exhausting as well. Absolutely. I know 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 meetings in succession some mornings before you go for lunch. It's exhausting. It's 100%. If you're one-on-one doing business through video, it's 100% concentration. You have to be clued into the whole thing, and that can be exhausting on the mind as well.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Gary, what's next for Simply Business Finance?
Simply, well, we are continuing. Like the name itself, obviously, it's the Irish word for simple is simply, which is why I chose to use that. What's next for us is to continue developing what we're doing, simplifying the application process, making access to finance. If you know me from working in Grid, and Rory, you know me from then as well. Grid is an alternative finance provider in Ireland. What's next for us is to become an educator in the space of alternative finance in Ireland, make businesses more aware of it and that it exists. And I think if we can do a little bit to bridge a gap between SME finance demand for money and the lenders that have it, which there's so much more beyond the banks. Nicola, in the UK, 8 years ago, non-bank finance was really starting to gain traction over there. And I think, Nicola, I don't know what the exact numbers are now. You don't know. You probably don't know what they are off the top of your head. But the acceptance of non-bank finance in the UK most businesses will go to a non-bank finance provider before they speak to their own banks.
Yeah.
That shift has happened,
Yeah.
and that's happening in Ireland. And what I want to do with Simply is, one, keep the application super simple, which is our motto. Keep it super simple, and then educate SMEs in this country about what options exist beyond the banks.
Absolutely. And Nicola, what's next for Mint?
Well, obviously, I've got to come to Ireland now.
Yes.
and then see everybody. I think we will wait till the end of the summer holidays. School holidays here finish obviously the end of August, and we will really look to ramp up our membership numbers because it fluctuates every month, and that's the model. Some people join, some people leave, but I think it's been such a turbulent time, especially this last 3 or 4 months when people have been trying to get back to normal. There's a real pressure on everybody's time. But for us, we really want to work with new startup businesses because, of course, there's a lot of people being made redundant, and we've had all of that. But there's a lot of people, there's a lot of opportunity, as you've alluded to. There's a lot of opportunity, and people are starting their new businesses. So I think that's where we want to get in there with those people and kind of go, right, you're starting now. There's nothing in our membership you can never ask because there's hundreds of us. Someone will be able to help you with that question or that thought, and someone will have been through it before you. So just being part of our tribe, I think really, really helps people be more successful. And that's not to do with me. That's the brilliant people who are in there with all of their own perspectives and how much help they can give. So yeah, definitely working with newly formed companies now is a big growth projection for us.
Great. And Aoife, what about yourself? Where's Prudence Moneypenny off to next?
She is off to take over the world with creative collaborations. Absolutely. Yeah. So, well, if nobody else is going to step up to the plate, then I need to do it. So I love collaborative projects. September, October, my adult education signature Money Magic program will be launching again. And because of COVID, I'm not sure if that's going to be in person or online, but because of COVID, actually that allowed me to reach a much greater audience this year, which was absolutely fantastic. And that program is free to participants, which is even better. But I'm also looking at, I'll be launching my group coaching program, which I've been threatening to do for months, and just always find other interesting things to do, like weed the garden and tidy my sock drawer. But I'll be launching a lot of collaborative projects. So I'll be looking for speakers, experts, and because you can have it all, you just don't have to do it all yourself.
Yeah.
So watch the space.
Absolutely, I think that's a great way, and I think on that, because I know Aoife, you're rushing off to do another interview straight after this, so yes. I think what we'll do, I think we'll actually call it there. We're a couple of minutes early from finishing, but thank you very much to our guests, Gary Grimes, Aoife Gaffney, and Nicola Little. I will post contact details for all of them after the broadcast is over, and you'll be able to make contact with them if you're interested in what they have to offer. And again, after the amount of knowledge they've shared today, who wouldn't want to be? We will be back with you again in 2 weeks' time with another lineup of guests, and we do hope you'll be able to join us then.
Awesome. Thanks, Rory.
Thanks, Rory.
Thanks very much.